Welcome to part 3 of Recap, Regulatory Compliance Preparatory Solution. In this section we're going to look at the requirements for key individuals and sole proprietors. You will find as we run through this that there is one key differentiator between representatives, key individuals and sole proprietors, and that is around the operational ability of the business. But let's focus on key individuals and sole proprietors. The requirements are threefold. The key requirements are threefold. It starts with competence, and within competence there are three key components. Your experience, your minimum qualifications, and the requirement to have completed at the very least RE1, and then based on the products you are dealing with, RE2. Honesty and integrity goes to the code of conduct and deals very specifically with the types of behaviors that would be considered appropriate for a KI or sole proprietor to have the honesty and integrity requirements. And then finally the continuous professional development component. Now this component is forward-looking, where the competence requirement looks at your current experience and qualifications. You would need to know what continuous professional development is, what constitutes it, and at what point you need to start embarking on these sorts of programs. And then finally it goes to the operational ability of the business. In this case, the key individual needs to be aware of, for example, the license arrangements and the obligations of the entity in terms of these license arrangements. And in the case of the sole proprietor, it is both an awareness of and accountability for the operational ability of the business. In other words, the key focus here is sustainability. The more sustainable the business is, the more the consumer is protected. So in the context of this, what is it that you would need to cover in your study in preparation for RE1? Well, there are two key pieces of legislation that form the context of your work. The FICA Act and the FASE Act, Financial and Advisory Intermediary Services Act. In the context of these two pieces of legislation, you would need to understand the competence requirements, your experience, your qualifications, and the regulatory examinations. You would need to understand the continuous professional development requirements of yourself. What is continuous professional development and when does it come into effect? The code of conduct. What behaviors are considered in keeping with the honesty and integrity requirements of phase fit and proper? And then finally, the operational soundness, the operational ability of the business. So let's just cover very quickly, let's recap very quickly. The regulatory exam will cover the FASE Act, its various sections and what these cover, the FICA Act and their broad requirements, the various board notices. Remember, the board notices provide the meat to the Act. Your phase code of conduct, there are three specific codes of conduct that will be covered. The general code of conduct, the administrative code of conduct for administrative FSPs, and the code of conduct for discretionary FSPs. Your experience, the qualifications, in this case the minimum qualifications from Board Notice 105, and then continuous professional development. What constitutes continuous professional development, the purpose of continuous professional development, and at what stage do you need to start embarking on these programs. In order to access this information, if you're interested in obtaining the slides that have been shown in these series, please contact the facilitation workshop by email on info@tfwshop.co.za. Part 4 in this series will deal very specifically with the FASE Act and some of the key definitions. So if you're going to be joining us for Part 4, please make sure that you do have a copy of the Act with you. See you later.